There exists a force so pervasive in modern male consciousness that most men don't even recognize it as unusual. It operates in the background of daily life, subtle, constant, and consuming. It's not listed on any productivity audit, doesn't appear in time-tracking apps, and rarely gets mentioned in discussions about personal development. Yet it may be the single greatest drain on male mental energy, focus, and potential in the modern world. This force is the constant preoccupation with sex. Every day, the average man's mind returns to sexual thoughts, fantasies, and concerns dozens, if not hundreds, of times. Between actual thoughts about sex, there are the adjacent mental processes: evaluating women's attractiveness, imagining scenarios, replaying memories, planning pursuits, nursing rejections, and cycling through an endless stream of sexual imagery absorbed from media and pornography. This isn't about morality, it's about power, specifically the mental power that's being diverted, the cognitive resources being consumed, and the potential that remains untapped when so much mental energy flows toward sexual preoccupation. This guide explores what happens when a man learns to redirect this energy, to master rather than be mastered by sexual impulses, and to unlock the extraordinary power of a mind freed from constant sexual distraction, the invisible tax on male consciousness. Before we can discuss liberation, we must first understand the scope of the issue, the numbers behind the distraction. Research suggests that men think about sex approximately 19 times per day on average, though this varies widely. However, this statistic only captures explicit sexual thoughts. It doesn't account for background awareness of attractive women in one's environment, time spent consuming pornography. Studies show averages of 40 minutes to 2 hours daily for regular users. Energy spent on dating apps, messaging, and pursuit. Mental rehearsals of past sexual experiences. Fantasy construction and elaboration. Appearance-related grooming and fitness driven primarily by sexual marketplace value. Social media scrolling that's primarily visual stimulation. Conversations about sex, relationships, and attraction. When you total the actual cognitive load, many men are spending 2 to 4 hours daily or more in sexual or sex-adjacent mental activity. That's 14 to 28 hours per week. Over 700 to 1,400 hours per year. In a lifetime, we're talking about years of conscious awareness consumed by sexual preoccupation. The cognitive cost. Mental energy isn't unlimited. The brain, despite being only 2% of body weight, consumes roughly 20% of the body's energy. Cognitive resources, attention, working memory, willpower, operate on a limited budget. Every minute spent in sexual fantasy is a minute not spent in deep work and creative problem-solving, learning and skill acquisition, strategic thinking and planning, present-moment awareness and connection, artistic or intellectual creation, spiritual or philosophical contemplation. The switching cost is significant too. Each time attention shifts to a sexual thought and then must return to a task, there's a cognitive penalty. Research on task switching shows that it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to deep focus after an interruption. Sexual thoughts function as internal interruptions. The emotional drain. Beyond pure cognition, sexual preoccupation carries emotional weight. Frustration when desires aren't met. Anxiety about performance, adequacy, or attractiveness. Shame about habits, thoughts, or behaviors. Jealousy, comparing oneself to other men. Restlessness, driven by unfulfilled urges. Depression, following the post-orgasm neurochemical drop. This emotional turbulence consumes psychological energy that could fuel ambition, contentment, or creative drive. The biological reality. Understanding the drive. To redirect this energy, we must first understand its source. The evolutionary programming. Male sexuality evolved in an environment vastly different from the modern world. For most of human history, visual sexual stimuli were rare and usually indicated actual mating opportunities. The cost of sexual pursuit was high: risk, resource expenditure, social consequences. Reproductive success was directly tied to status, resources, and strategic mate selection. Sexual access was limited and required significant investment. The male brain evolved to be highly responsive to sexual opportunity because historically, missing opportunities meant fewer offspring. The men who noticed, pursued, and capitalized on sexual opportunities passed on their genes. We're the descendants of those men. The modern mismatch. Today's environment bears no resemblance to the one our sexual psychology evolved for. Unlimited stimuli. High-speed internet delivers infinite sexual imagery, flooding the system with supernormal stimuli. No real opportunity cost. Pornography provides sexual reward without pursuit, effort, or social risk. Constant exposure. Evolutionary novel situations, like seeing hundreds of attractive women daily via screens, trigger old programming repeatedly. Reward without reproduction. The brain's reward system can't distinguish between pixels and potential mates. The result is a biological system designed for scarcity, operating in an environment of abundance. It's like putting a person evolved for feast or famine into an all-you-can-eat buffet. The instincts that once served survival now create maladaptive patterns. The neurochemistry of sexual thought. Sexual arousal and activity involve complex neurochemistry. Dopamine, surges with anticipation and novelty-seeking, drives pursuit. Oxytocin, released during orgasm, bonds and connects. Prolactin, rises after orgasm, suppresses dopamine, and creates refractory period. Endorphins, natural opioids that create euphoria. Cortisol, stress hormone that increases with sexual frustration or shame. Frequent sexual activity, real or virtual, creates a neurochemical pattern: spike, crash, craving, spike. This cycle can become self-reinforcing, creating what some researchers consider a behavioral addiction pattern. What changes when the mind is freed? When men successfully redirect sexual mental energy, they consistently report profound changes across multiple life domains. Enhanced cognitive function. Sustained focus. Perhaps the most immediate benefit is the ability to maintain deep focus for extended periods. Without the constant pull of sexual distraction, concentration becomes stable and sustainable. Men report ability to work on complex problems for 3 to 4 hour blocks. Increased reading comprehension and retention. Better listening and presence in conversations. Enhanced capacity for strategic, long-term thinking. Mental clarity. The mind becomes less cluttered. Decision-making improves because it's not clouded by sexual motivation or the mental fog that follows sexual activity. Creative enhancement. With attention freed from sexual preoccupation, creative energy flows more readily. Many men report surges in artistic output, problem-solving ability, and innovative thinking. Historical examples abound. Nikola Tesla famously practiced celibacy and attributed his creative genius to sexual energy transmutation. Many spiritual and philosophical traditions have long understood this connection. Increased physical energy. Raw vitality. Men consistently report feeling more physically energetic when they're not regularly ejaculating. While scientific consensus on this is mixed, the subjective experience is nearly universal. Potential mechanisms. Conservation of nutrients and biological resources used in sperm production. Stable testosterone and androgen receptor sensitivity. Improved sleep quality. No post-orgasm crash. Better overall hormonal balance. Athletic performance. Many athletes practice sexual abstinence before competition, reporting improved performance, aggression, and competitive drive. Physical presence. Men often describe feeling more solid, more grounded in their bodies, with a presence others notice, even if they can't articulate why. Emotional stability and confidence. Even-keeled demeanor. Without the neurochemical roller coaster of regular sexual activity, mood becomes more stable. The highs and lows flatten into a sustainable baseline. Authentic confidence. Confidence that doesn't depend on sexual validation or others' approval emerges. This is confidence rooted in self-mastery rather than external feedback. Reduced anxiety. Much male anxiety centers on sexual performance, adequacy, and attractiveness. When these concerns quiet, baseline anxiety often decreases significantly. Less reactive. Men report being less emotionally triggered, particularly by women. The neediness that underlies much male-female interaction dissipates. Social dynamics and relationships. Authentic connection. Freed from sexual agenda, interactions with women become more authentic. Paradoxically, this often makes men more attractive, as the absence of neediness is itself appealing. Respect and dignity. Both self-respect and respect from others tend to increase. There's a dignity in self-mastery that others intuitively recognize. Better boundaries. Without sexual desperation driving behavior, men find it easier to maintain healthy boundaries and make relationship decisions based on compatibility rather than access. Leadership presence. Many men report that others begin to naturally look to them for leadership and guidance, as if freed sexual energy translates to social power. Spiritual and philosophical depth. Inner stillness. With the constant mental chatter about sex quieted, a deeper stillness emerges. This creates space for meditation, contemplation, and spiritual practice. Heightened awareness. Present moment awareness increases dramatically when the mind isn't constantly pulled into fantasy or memory. Purpose and meaning. Without sexual pursuit consuming mental resources, men often turn their attention to questions of purpose, legacy, and meaning. Transcendence. Many spiritual traditions teach that sexual energy is simply life force energy. When redirected upward, symbolically speaking, It fuels higher consciousness and transcendent experiences. The path to mastery. Practical approaches. Understanding the power is one thing. Accessing it is another. Here are proven approaches. 1. Semen retention and strategic sexuality. The practice of semen retention, intentionally abstaining from ejaculation, is ancient but has seen modern resurgence. The practice. Complete abstinence from ejaculation for set periods, 30, 60, 90+ days. Sexual activity without ejaculation requires practice and control. Strategic ejaculation limited to actual reproductive attempts or infrequent planned releases. The science and controversy. Scientific evidence is mixed. Some studies show testosterone spikes around day 7 of abstinence. Others show no significant hormonal changes with retention. However, the subjective reports are remarkably consistent. Men feel more energetic, focused, and powerful. Practical tips. Start with achievable goals, 7 to 30 days. Track mood, energy, and productivity. Identify triggers and create environmental controls. Redirect sexual energy into physical activity when urges arise. Find community support, forums, accountability partners. 2. Eliminating pornography. For many men, pornography is the primary driver of sexual preoccupation. Why it's critical. Pornography hijacks the brain's reward system. It creates unrealistic expectations and can impact real relationships. It trains the brain to associate sexual reward with pixels rather than partnership. The novelty-seeking it promotes makes real sexuality less satisfying. It consumes enormous time and mental energy. The withdrawal process. Quitting pornography often involves a withdrawal period. Days 1 to 7. High urges, irritability, difficulty concentrating. Weeks 2 to 4. Mood swings, flatline, low libido, brain fog. Months 2 to 3. Gradual return of natural libido and energy. Month 3+. Full reboot, sensitivity to real-world stimuli returns. Practical steps. Use blocking software and accountability tools. Identify emotional triggers, boredom, stress, loneliness. Replace the habit with healthier alternatives. Address underlying issues, anxiety, depression, loneliness. Join recovery communities, no-fap, porn-free, etc. 3. Transmutation through physical practice. Eastern traditions have long taught techniques for channeling sexual energy into other pursuits. Martial arts. Intense physical practice naturally channels aggressive and sexual energy. Many martial artists report that training diminishes sexual urges while increasing overall vitality. Weightlifting and strength training. Heavy compound movements, squats, deadlifts, naturally balance hormones and provide an outlet for physical aggression and energy. Endurance sports. Running, cycling, swimming. Activities that require sustained effort can metabolize restless sexual energy. Yoga and Qigong. Specifically designed to move and direct energy through the body, these practices help men feel the subtle movement of what Eastern traditions call sexual vital energy. 4. Meditation and mindfulness. The mind's tendency to wander towards sexual fantasy can be reconditioned through meditation. Observation without engagement. The practice is simple but not easy. When a sexual thought arises, observe it without elaborating, engaging, or judging. Simply note sexual thought and return attention to the breath or chosen focus. Over time, this weakens the habit pattern. The thoughts still arise, but lose their compulsive power. Techniques. Mindfulness meditation, 20 to 30 minutes daily. Body scanning to ground awareness in physical sensation. Loving kindness practice to redirect relational energy. Concentration practices to strengthen focus. 5. Creative and intellectual pursuit. Sexual energy doesn't disappear, it transforms. Give it somewhere to go. Deep work. Commit to projects requiring sustained mental effort. Writing, coding, research, artistic creation. These absorb energy that might otherwise seek sexual outlet. Skill acquisition. Learning complex skills, language, instrument, craft, provides challenge and absorption that redirects mental energy. Intellectual challenge. Philosophy, mathematics, science. Domains that require rigorous thinking can channel mental energy away from sexual preoccupation. Creative expression. Many artists report that periods of sexual abstinence correlate with creative productivity. The energy seeks expression through alternative channels. 6. Strategic relationships. For men in relationships, the path looks different but remains valid. Communication. Discuss intentions with your partner. Many women are supportive once they understand the purpose. Redefining intimacy. Focus on non-sexual physical intimacy, emotional connection, and partnership. Carezza. A practice of slow, non-goal-oriented sexual contact without ejaculation, maintaining connection without the crash. Scheduled intimacy. Rather than constant availability, create intentional, planned sexual connection, allowing longer periods of retention between. Via the challenges. What makes this difficult? Honest discussion requires acknowledging the obstacles. Biological imperative. Sexual drive is powerful because it's biologically fundamental. Fighting it feels like fighting nature, because in a sense it is. The key is not elimination, but redirection. You're not trying to become asexual. You're trying to become master rather than slave. Modern environment. We live in a pornified culture. Sexual imagery is everywhere. Advertising, social media, entertainment. Avoiding stimulation requires constant vigilance and environmental design. Social pressure. Male culture often revolves around sexual conquest. Choosing retention or reduced sexual activity can feel countercultural, inviting misunderstanding or ridicule. The flat line. Many men attempting retention hit the flat line, a period of low libido, low mood, and low energy. This is often withdrawal from the dopamine hits of regular sexual activity. It passes, but it's difficult. Wet dreams. The body may release sexual tension through nocturnal emissions. This is natural and not considered a relapse in most retention practices. Relationship strain. Partners may not understand or support the practice, viewing it as rejection. This requires careful communication and potentially compromise. The science. What we know and don't know. Scientific study of semen retention and sexual abstinence is limited and controversial. What studies show? Testosterone. Some studies show a spike around day 7 of abstinence, then return to baseline. Others show no significant change. Sperm quality. Moderate abstinence, 2 to 5 days, may optimize sperm quality. Longer periods show mixed results. Psychological effects. Limited research, but some studies show improved mood and focus with reduced pornography use. Athletic performance. Mixed results. Some show no impact, others show slight improvements. The subjective-objective gap. Here's the puzzle. Scientific evidence is inconclusive, yet subjective reports are remarkably consistent. Men report profound benefits that aren't always captured in measurable metrics. Possible explanations. Placebo effect. Belief creates real changes. Changes in subtle neurochemistry not measured by standard tests. Indirect effects. Better sleep, more time, etc. Real but poorly understood biological mechanisms. The truth likely involves all of the above. The placebo effect is real medicine. If belief in the practice creates genuine benefits, those benefits are legitimate. The balance. Avoiding extremism. Like any powerful practice, this one can become imbalanced. The dangers of obsession. Some men become so focused on retention that it becomes another form of bondage, constantly monitoring, fearing relapse, living in scarcity mentality around sexual energy. This defeats the purpose. The goal is freedom, not a new prison. Sexual repression versus transmutation. There's a crucial difference. Repression, forcing down sexual energy through shame, fear, or willpower alone. This creates tension, neurosis, and eventual explosive release. Transmutation, acknowledging sexual energy, respecting it, and consciously directing it toward chosen purposes. This feels expansive rather than restrictive. The role of actual sexuality. This isn't about never having sex. For many men, strategic, intentional, connected sexuality with retention practices creates the optimal balance. Intimate connection without the depletion. Individual variance. Some men report dramatic benefits, others notice subtle changes. Some thrive on long retention periods, others find shorter cycles optimal. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Self-experimentation is essential. Historical and cultural perspectives. The concept of sexual energy conservation and transmutation appears across cultures and throughout history. HMS, Ancient Traditions. Taoism. Taoist practices emphasize Jing, sexual vital essence conservation. Techniques involve non-ejaculatory sex and energy circulation practices. Tantra. Both Hindu and Buddhist Tantra include practices for channeling sexual energy toward spiritual realization. Yoga. Brahmacharya, sexual restraint, is one of the ethical foundations. Advanced practitioners believe it generates ojas, vital energy. Ancient Greece. Many philosophers practiced sexual restraint, believing it enhanced intellectual capacity. Modern movements. NoFap, an online community focused on eliminating pornography and masturbation, reporting benefits from increased energy to improved relationships. Semen retention. A growing movement of men practicing various forms of retention for personal development. Biohacking. Some biohackers include strategic sexuality in their optimization protocols. Historical figures. Many accomplished men have spoken about sexual restraint. Nikola Tesla attributed his creativity to celibacy. Muhammad Ali practiced abstinence before fights. Pythagoras required students to practice sexual restraint. Steve Jobs explored Eastern practices, including sexual energy work. Mike Tyson noted dramatic difference between training in abstinence versus sexual activity. The bigger picture. What this reveals about power. Ultimately, this practice reveals something profound about human nature and personal power. Self-mastery as foundation. The ability to master sexual impulses demonstrates and develops mastery in general. If you can control the most powerful biological drive, you can control lesser impulses. This isn't about sexual denial, it's about capability. The man who can choose when and how to express sexuality is more powerful than the man who's reactive to every impulse. Energy management. Life is, in many ways, about energy management. Those who learn to direct rather than dissipate energy achieve more. Sexual energy is simply the most powerful form of personal energy. Learn to direct it, and you've learned a master skill. The source of civilization. Consider, every great human achievement required sustained focus and delayed gratification. Buildings, books, inventions, institutions, all required channeling energy toward long-term goals rather than immediate impulses. Sexual restraint may be part of what allowed civilization to develop. The capacity to delay sexual gratification for long-term achievement might be fundamental to human progress. Individual versus collective interests. From a societal perspective, sexually satisfied men are less driven, less ambitious, less aggressive. A population of men constantly seeking sexual fulfillment is easy to control. Give them pornography and entertainment. Men who've mastered sexual energy are harder to manipulate, control, or satisfy with bread and circuses. They want meaning, purpose, and achievement. Conclusion: the choice and the challenge. The power of a mind freed from sexual preoccupation isn't mystical, it's practical. It's the power of focused attention, sustained effort, emotional stability, and self-directed energy. Most men will never unlock this power because they don't know it exists. They don't believe it's possible. They're not willing to pay the price. The culture actively works against it. But for those who do, the reports are remarkably consistent. Life transforms. You become more productive, more creative, more present, more confident, and more powerful. Not because you've gained something new, but because you've stopped leaking something you always had. The challenge isn't superhuman. It's simply going against the cultural current. It's choosing long-term power over short-term pleasure. It's deciding that your potential matters more than your urges. No one can make this choice for you. The path requires commitment, experimentation, and patience. There will be failures and restarts. The benefits aren't always immediate or obvious. But here's what you can know. Every man who's seriously pursued this path reports that something shifts. Subtle at first, then undeniable. A sense of reclaimed power, of energy that's yours to direct, of a mind that's finally, truly your own. The question isn't whether this power is real. Enough men across enough cultures, across enough time, have reported it that we can be confident. Something is there. The question is whether you're willing to find out for yourself. The power is there, waiting. It always has been. Most men never unlock it because they never try. Will you?